Welcome to another episode of VGN Weekly. Members of the Virtual Grip crew will recap the previous week's races and bring us one-on-one interviews with racers, league owners, and commentators, as well as others from within the sim racing community. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's go find some grip.
The Bootleg Racing League Outlaw Modified Invitational Series kicked off 2025 in style, launching their 38th season of competition at North Wilkesboro Speedway on Saturday night, January 4th. Drivers would fight for the lead early as we would see great battles for the entire first half of the race. A newcomer in the Bootleg Racing League, Edward Foster, pressured Adam Shane for the lead on lap 30 and made his way to the top spot, which he held until a lap 65 restart that saw Todd Liston get into the rear bumper of Foster, creating a track blocking incident that shuffled the running order and allowed Donnie Moore to sneak through the carnage and back to the position where he started the race, out in front of the field. A late race charge from Todd Liston would make sure it wouldn't be easy for Donnie Moore, but Old Time would take that 26 machine to victory lane in the SK Modified season opening round. The Bootleg Racing League Late Model Invitational Series would kick off 2025 with their first race of season 29 at North Wilkesboro Speedway, following the excitement of the BRL Modified Series. And the 26 drivers in the field would keep the excitement going. Joe Segala led early, but it was deja vu for the field on lap 11 when Todd Liston got into the leader, creating a track blocking incident off of turn 4. This handed the lead to Jason Menda, and the 45 machine would hold off charges from Todd Cousins and Aiden Young in the middle portion of the 100-lap event. But Scott Negus would catch Menda with 15 laps remaining, and the two would battle side by side before contact between them would ruin both drivers' night and hand the lead to the 69 of Aiden Young, as the field set up for a late race restart. Mike Holloway, who had been biding his time and managing his tire wear early in the race, started on the outside of the front row and proved to be the king of tire management as he wrestled the lead away from Young and drove off into the sunset to win the season opener at North Wilkesboro Speedway.
Welcome back to VGN Weekly. I am John Hine. I am joined today with Josh Buckley. He is the owner of Red Light Racing. We'll be broadcasting the Skidder Creek SK Modified Series from Red Light Racing. Season 13 will start Thursday, January 9th. And for his track record there, he's got 161 starts, an average finish of 10.2. He's got 4 wins, 29 top 5s, 96 top 10s. And Josh, welcome to VGN.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we are excited to not only have you, but your series coming up here. And Before we get to your series, tell me a little bit about you and how did you find and get into iRacing?
Um, I've always been a big fan of racing. I actually used to work for GameStop, so big with the gaming. I would buy every racing game that came out, and I always wanted what iRacing is. I just never knew iRacing existed. So I was playing Gran Turismo, but Gran Turismo didn't have the realism with the damage, things like that. And finally, just one day, a guy came in. It's like, "You ever heard of iRacing?" I'm like, "Nope." And he was like, "You might want to check it out." And I think I've been on iRacing now, what, 13, 14 years? So.
Oh wow. So almost the beginning, not quite the beginning, but pretty cool, pretty early on then. You've seen all kinds of changes over the years.
Oh yeah.
Um what's your favorite what to you so far has been your biggest what's been the biggest change you think they've done?
I mean, they're trying to widen the variety of everything. The overhaul and just trying to. It's the constant updates. Like from everything. Perfect example. There was an issue with certain cars, the modifieds being included at New Hampshire with the seams, and iRacing, updated it and took care of that issue. So that's no longer an issue. And it's the constant uploads, the new content, they do it in all the different varieties. The road course stuff, short track stuff. They try to get to all of it. So I mean, it's not going to be perfect every time, but it's just the constant improvements that they go and they strive for. So
Well, yeah, they that is definitely true. They constantly have to upgrade and clog our computers with more space. But is there one particular that's been your favorite where you're like, oh, this is like the coolest ever? Like maybe rain or maybe a tire model or anything like that? A car?
well, I like the modifieds. I grew up with that stuff. Going to Stafford Motor Speedway every Friday night. So once I really found the modified and got into that, that's really the one big thing on iRacing that I like. The rain is an interesting thing, but I only do road course racing, the Daytona 24, and I've practiced in the rain once. It's pretty cool, but I do not have a hand for it at all so far.
Yeah, that's a different beast onto itself. Well, let's move on to your a league owner, a league that's going to debut right here on VGN. The modifieds here. Tell me a little bit about your league. The modifieds are going to be on VGN, but you also have another series there too. So tell us all about Red Light Racing.
So Red Light Racing was created back in 2014, I believe, if I'm correct, by a guy named Jeremy Patterson. And I shortly after that league started, I joined it, having fun with that league. And it was a bunch of different stuff at the time. Cup cars, Xfinity cars, and keep going back and forth. And then a couple years down the road, he decided that his life changed and he wasn't going to be doing iRacing anymore. And I asked him if I can just take over because it's hard. For me at the time, it was really hard to find a league that really worked for what I want. And Red Light was perfect for that. So at that point, he handed everything over to me, and here we are today with the Monday night series, which is what we call our Scrambler series. Is what started everything. That's what's been running the longest. And then I was actually, I got into the short track stuff, especially the modifieds. I actually raced in bootleg for a little bit until my schedule changed and I just couldn't do the time anymore. And I had a lot of fun doing that, and that's when I made the decision. I really like racing the modifieds, and I should start my own series and see how that works. And right from the get go, we had a lot of interest, and now we're what 3-4 years into it, and now we're probably one of our biggest seasons coming up, starting Thursday. So I'm really excited to get that going. I was in the championship hunt there till the end last season, so hopefully to have another strong season.
Well, you talk about your biggest season ever. So what's in store for our viewers this season then for that?
Um, the car count looks like it's going to be pretty good. We normally try a goal of about 20 to 25 cars. Obviously, short track racing. You get any bigger than that can be a little hectic, especially with all the small tracks. And we're doing a lot of things normally we used to do, like just 100-lap races and straight 100-lap races. Well, now some of the drivers, because every season what we'll do is we'll send out a survey to all the drivers of the league, asking their thoughts on how we're doing, anything that they'd like to see in a future season. And we put some of that in for this season. Our first race of the season is actually 150 laps. Making it a little bit of a bigger deal race to start out off. I know we're going to North Wilkesboro with a twin 50 race, so there's going to be double points that night, something we've never done before. So it's just a lot of cool new things. Got a couple new drivers for this season as well, and I'm excited to see, and hopefully we'll have some fun.
Well, I tell you, it sounds like a heck of a lot of fun. How many races are going to be in that season?
It's 16 weeks.
16 weeks. Do you run them consecutively, or you break it up, or?
Mostly consecutively. The only time that'll change is if like a holiday lands on it or something where most likely a lot of people won't be around. But other than that, they're pretty much week after week.
Well, I've always admired guys that can run leagues and do them the right way and stuff like that. My biggest question, I guess, I would have is, tell me what is the biggest challenge you think of running a solid league there?
It's going to be different depending on the leagues and what the owners or admins are looking for. What I feel that I did, and this goes with both series, I have a team of 3 admins, one being myself, and then 2 others for each series. And we have our set of rules, which is a very basic set of rules. We're not one of those leagues with the Bible size rule books that always making new rules because of something. We just have a thing that all of our drivers have integrity, and we don't need to have a big rule book for that reason. And then it's just being straight and honest with everybody. It's the admins, and that way the 3 admin basically is what it does is we might not always agree on something that we decide to do. If we do need to do something with something that happened during a race or a way a driver acted, and even sometimes I don't get voted the way that I wanted it to come out, but the whole thing is just trying to be fair to everybody and trying to be as similar as possible. So, if we hand out a punishment because someone intentionally wrecks somebody, well, if that happens further down the road, it's the same punishment, not any different. That's what, we try to do. And I think it works great. And it's also just being straight up with everybody in the league. It's like, look, this is the goal. This is what we want. We know how this is, especially if you've been here for a while, the expectation. And and if you can't handle that expectation, we've unfortunately had to make some calls, like every league owner and admin has, to say goodbye to some guys because it wasn't working. And it's just, you have to have those hard conversations sometimes, and not everybody can deal with confrontation sometimes. And I've had some interesting things that I've had to deal with, and I was just like, and just to be perfectly honest, just, I'm not going to name names, but one of them was my teammate that we had to, say goodbye to, because it was just what happened, and it is what it is. But when you own a league, that's the stuff you have to deal with, and the leagues that have people that can deal with that are the ones that are still here or been going strong for years. I know a few other guys that own leagues that they've been around maybe longer than we have, but they're great admins, great owners, and that's why their leagues are still around today.
What's the most rewarding thing that you found running a league? Because I know Lowell pretty well, and I know all the work that he puts in it. So I'm guessing you probably put a lot of legwork, a lot of time, your personal time into it. So for you, what is the most rewarding part of owning a league?
It's honestly the core group that has been around for years. You always want to bring in new guys as well. It's always the goal to get bigger fields. Obviously, you don't want too big of a field and it gets too crazy to where it gets out of hand. But it's just seeing the same guys every season. Back, and sometimes it doesn't work out. Schedules change. Life happens. I do understand that. But just seeing the same guys every time, and and then even when I'll be going through the chats, and you got the different Facebook groups of people looking for leagues, and I don't even have to say, hey, check out Red Light. I got my other drivers going, hey, you want a great league, check this one out. So that's probably the most rewarding for me is seeing that kind of stuff and the support and we get from all of our regulars.
Oh, very cool. Well, we talked about your season getting ready to get started here. So, when it comes on the air here, who do we watch? Who's the drivers to watch in your league, do you think?
Well, there was a big mix of us. To be honest with you, obviously, Jeff Aho, last season's champion, gonna have to look out for him. He's got some speed. Um, it's a lot of us: Eric Stout, Rob Higgins, Brian Bianchi. Um, that's just to name a few. I'm terrible with names, so I'm trying to think of them. Rex
Oh,
Hoyle, I know will be up there. He'll always be in the mix. Um, it's kind of one of the great things I like about what we do looking for the drivers that we have on our roster is there's someone around. Obviously, not everybody is going to be super fast. Some guys are faster, some guys are not. They just have fun racing, and that's fine. But there's the group for everybody to be racing around, so it's not just one guy that's a mile back behind everybody not having any fun. Obviously, it's racing. Sometimes you get in a wreck and you don't have the speed. You are in the back, but I mean that's racing. It happens. So you never know until you do it. But it's a good mix of guys. And we got a few new guys as well. I wish I could remember their names, but I'm terrible with names. So I've always said that I'm better with faces than I am names. So, but yeah, no, I'm excited for this season. I think it's going to be a lot of jockeying back and forth. We did a fun run with all the new guys last Thursday just to get warmed up, and I mean, it was a lot of back and forth with a lot of the different drivers, and I think Aho wound up winning that one. I don't know why someone let him do that, but I mean, and gonna win some here and there. But it was a lot of good, clean racing, so I'm excited for this season.
You talked about last season, and it sounded like you guys had a pretty big mix there for that championship. Yeah, is it? How are your points structured in that league?
The points are basically winner is 43 points, second place 42, and it goes down to whoever finishes last. There is a clean bonus point that you get. So anybody that has a 0x incident at the end of the race, which is kind of hard to do with short track racing sometimes, that's a bonus point. 3 points for winning a race, a point for leading a lap, additional point for leading the most laps. And I feel like I'm missing something, but I think that's pretty much how the point structure goes. And then there's one drop week. So obviously life happens sometimes, and you might miss a race, and you're like, "Oh, there goes my season." No, we try to have a little bit of leniency with that. So
Very cool. Do you guys have an incident limit or anything like that?
um, we don't. The reason, I mean, I've run in leagues that have them.
Yep.
I'm not the biggest fan personally of that, just because I've had races where it wasn't even my fault and I hit the incident limit. Like I had nothing to do with any
Yeah.
of it. I got either piled into or it was a roadblock in front of me that I got piled into and couldn't stop in time. So we don't have that. Obviously, we've had to before with certain people. Like if it gets a little out of hand one race, you might get a talk to after and be like, all right, just maybe hone it down a little bit. But for the most part, no, we pretty much just keep it up to our drivers, trusting, we got a great group, and, they know how to keep their heads on. And, if they do, we've had some guys that, self spin, some setups might be looser. If they spin a couple times, all right, they probably slow it down a little bit. But yeah, no, I've never been a fan of the incident limit. I do understand why leagues do run it. Just, we don't do it here.
Well, how about a tire rule? Do you guys have any kind of unique tire rule, or you guys can you take tires, that kind of good stuff?
Yep. So in our races, we do one extra set of tires. So you can take that set whenever you want. I would personally like that just because sometimes, say at a 100 lap race, 70 laps in, you get a caution. Some people take the tires and it's worked out for me. And then sometimes I take the tires and it didn't work out for me. It all depends on the setup sometimes. But I do like that kind of strategy call. It allows, the change up, especially if it's one race where one guy is just really good with that setup, but he burns up his stuff but he stays out. So now, I come out on fresh tires. Can I get around him? And, you never know. And that for me, that's kind of the fun of it.
Yeah, I bet that would make a very interesting late race caution decision time. You know, I'm sure it'll translate over on the air pretty cool, but from a driver standpoint, I haven't had anybody on that's had to actually play that strategy. So you get a caution, 25 to go. What are your thoughts on what do you? I mean, what goes into you making that decision? I mean, I think that's always fascinating how guys decide to either come in a pit or not pit.
A lot of it comes with the practicing before, especially this season. We have Team 53 making setups for our series, so they'll be making all the setups, and with the practicing beforehand, we'll do like a 4-hour practice session on Wednesday nights for any of the drivers that want some extra seat time, but they also want to see where they gauge against some of the other guys. And a lot of that comes in tire wear, with the setup. And if it's a lot worse, the tire wear, or a track that really chews up the tires more, that's where you'll see, and that's normally where you'll see me make the pit call to go in. A lot of the times it's just right side tires, small tracks, trying to change 4 tires in time and not get lapped. Is the game you got to play there. But that's the way I look at it. If it's a track where it doesn't really position is a little more important than taking tires, I might stay out. It all depends, but a lot of the times, if I can try to shake it up and take 2 right sides with like 25 to go, I'll do it.
How well do two right sides work with those cars? I know in I forget what NASCAR division I tried taking just two one time. I got back out on the track and that car was evil at that point.
Yep.
How well does that work with the SKs?
Again, sometimes it works great. I think I did it at Myrtle Beach, and I was passing people on the outside. So
Oh, nice.
it worked out for that race. And then we had what was it? It depends. I took right sides at where were we? Oswego the other night, and that really didn't do me any good. I wound up losing like 5 spots and couldn't gain them up in time. Um, so again, it's all setup dependent sometimes, but sometimes you're trying to position yourself better for the points day for the season. And sometimes you make a gamble, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Very cool. I'm just kind of curious. I've never been able to race the SK where a pit stop was an option, so kind of curious about that. But well, Josh, let me ask a little bit about you. You talk about your NASCAR deal on Monday, the SKs. So I have to assume those are your favorite cars to drive. Is there anything else in the sim that you really enjoy kind of dabbling with?
I wouldn't say like the Cup car is my favorite. That's just kind of how the series was, and a lot of guys enjoy it. I'm personally more of a short track guy. One car that I haven't dabbled with much, but it's that new street stock mini stock car. That one, we did a fun race at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, the road course. I
Oh,
had a lot of
really?
fun. I had a lot of fun driving that car. I'm not gonna lie,
In the
and
street stock or the mini stock? Because they
the
came out with two new ones for each of them.
I think it was the mini stock. It was that new
Okay.
one.
That four banger.
Yeah, the four banger. That was a lot of fun. I'd like to do more stuff with it. Just the unfortunate thing with running a league in essentially 2 different series, it takes a lot of time, so I don't get a lot of extra time to really run anything else. I'm also married with 4 kids, so and they're getting older in the age where, hey, Dad, can you take me here? I want to go here. I want to go there. So most of my time and my free time is really taken up, either, with my kids or, working on stuff for the league, whether it's sponsorship stuff or, working on next season's schedule or, all that stuff. So,
Well, very cool. Well, we talked about you going up to Stafford and all that, every Friday night. What other is that your real racing exposure? Where did that start, and how did you first go there, and how did you first get hooked?
I grew up in Stafford Springs, Connecticut. I could literally hear the cars at the racetrack from where I lived. I could walk there if I wanted to. It wasn't that far. But my parents brought me when I was young. Probably in 1993 is when I think I first went there. This is back when Ted Christopher was there. Anybody who knows modified racing knows that name. And you either had a love him or hate him relationship. But so my mom brought me, and then my dad, sometimes would come too if he wasn't working, and just I got hooked right then and there, watching all the different cars, and it turned out to a thing where we'd go mostly every week. Sometimes obviously wouldn't make every week, but it just kept going for the longest time until we moved. My parents made the decision when I was a teenager to move to Maine, and that's where Oxford Plains Speedway came in because I moved to Norway. Oxford Plains is right down the street, so I'd been there a few times. A funny thing about Oxford, by the way, I had no idea the amount of times I've been there that there was a curb on the inside until I was doing it on iRacing. I had no idea. But yeah, no, that's where my love for the modifieds in general came. I love short track racing, but the modifieds is just, I don't know, to me something different. So that's why I enjoy running it so much.
Between the two tracks, which one did you like have a better fan experience at?
I would definitely say Stafford. Stafford, especially if you want to talk about the upgrades they've done recently, I would definitely say Stafford. The fan experience alone, just the money they're putting into that track, making it better. Um, I think it's not a jab on Oxford Plains. It is a good track, and I do
Yeah.
enjoy the nostalgia of that track as well. But if I had to say, definitely, I think Stafford just overall for a short track. In general, compared to a lot of the other big ones around the country, I think Stafford would probably be the best one around.
Do you get any other tracks up through that area other than those two?
There are a few, but I haven't been to them. One was Thunder Road, which was a disappointing thing because I was a big fan of the SRX series. So obviously, when SRX first started at Stafford, I was there, and I was actually at what my buddy Rob, and a fellow admin as well, and I decided that when they announced they were going to Thunder Road, neither of us had been there. So we rented a hotel, we got the tickets, all for it not to happen there because the weather decided to go hold my beer and basically ruin the road so they couldn't even get the cars there. So they made a last minute decision to race at Stafford instead. So we went to Stafford again.
That SRX series was pretty cool. I got to go see them at I-55 on the dirt. Steven Spies and I went, and you know, the cars that put on really good racing, but man, they were kind of ugly though. Yeah, they were even ugly in person when I went. But that pace car that they had, what was it? That 34 Ford.
Yep.
Probably coolest pace car like ever.
Oh, absolutely.
What did you think when you saw them at Stafford? What kind of show do they put on there?
I thought it was really cool. I like the design of the car, not like as just for the design. They can kind of beat and bang with the car, and that's what I really liked.
Yeah,
Um, and I thought it, brought some good racing. I like the idea that they also had like the full time drivers, but then they'd also bring out some local stars. Like
yes.
I believe Stafford brought out Doug Coby, which I mean, he's won plenty at Stafford, and he went and gave them all a whooping. And it was kind of enjoyable to see, people like Tony Stewart, lose to a local, track guy. But that's part of what
Yep.
SRX was, and that's what I like so much about it. But I was actually even excited, speaking of the cars, when iRacing got the SRX car.
Yeah,
Had a lot of fun with it.
Didn't that happen at Slinger too, where the local guy kind of took him to task?
Yeah, I believe
Um,
so.
yeah,
I think so. I know there was a couple. Um, And it was actually, I really enjoyed that series when they would also mix up every season the different drivers that would come out and be the full time drivers. Adding some NASCAR drivers, like my favorite NASCAR driver wound up being, I believe, the last season they did. And that was fun to see. He didn't do as well as I hoped he did, but he did run pretty well at a couple places. But yeah.
well, since you follow that series quite a bit, I've got to ask, Paul Tracy, how, how entertaining did you find him entertaining, or did you just want to see him get his butt whooped?
So I honestly kind of wanted to see him get his butt whooped. I'll be perfectly honest. Like, I don't want to call him a bully, but he kind of was one of those guys. And what was it? I think, who was it? I think he had an issue with Haley Deegan, and I was just like, "You're really gonna go after her, dude? That's not gonna end well." But
Yeah,
and then I think his attitude towards the end just got a little too far, and part of the reason he all of a sudden wasn't running there anymore. So. I don't think he's
it's
a terrible
tearing up
guy, but
cars.
he's got anger issues, and it's kind of hard when they don't have the cars to be tearing up like he was tearing up. So
Yeah, he's actually probably one of the most talented drivers, that's ever kind of been around. Yeah, the IndyCar race. I'm trying to think of that he was like walking down a live track after somebody one time, and yeah,
yeah,
he's got He's got the history of that. Um, well, growing up, it was so Ted Christopher. Was that your driver then growing up, or did you root against him?
To be honest with you, back in the day, I wasn't the biggest fan of him. The way I saw him do stuff as I got older, I kind of had a little more respect for him. Really started to understand what he was doing. When I was a young kid, it was just, oh, look at him, spinning people out all the time. Well, I didn't know about his at the time, the three tap Teddy rule. So, once I understood that, I was like, okay. And people hear me joke about it all the time here. It's like, the bump and run is a thing in short track racing, and I know I've had this argument with people. They're like, no, it's not a thing. It is a thing. It is, in my opinion. It is. I will, and it's worked out for me sometimes, and it hasn't in other times. Where if I can move you cleanly, I will. I'll give you that bumper to throw you up the track a little bit and let me pass under you. I pulled it off a couple times, and I have wound up wrecking the leader for the win accidentally a couple times. So I don't try to do it very often in iRacing because it's a lot harder to do. But just being able to see what he was able to do with those cars, and it wasn't just the modified; he'd jump in other cars and run hard as well. That's just who he was. Um, and then as I got older, just respecting him for who he was. And what he did, and I think really brought out um, for other people to do the same as in modified drivers. Like seeing someone like Ryan Preece in a Cup Series ride when he was known for modified racing down at Stafford. That was really cool to see, and I think he was one of the first to really broaden that horizon for drivers up in the Northeast with the modifieds. So as I got older, I respected him a lot more now than I did when I was a young kid.
Yeah, he really shined a light onto those modifieds, and it's a shame because he's not the first. I mean, Jimmy Spencer, you
Hmm.
know, big modified. The Bodines,
Yeah.
big modified. And I think the Bodines shined a little bit of a light on it. But then after those guys, you had like Mike McLaughlin
Hmm.
come through. You had Tommy Baldwin
Yep.
come in, and for whatever reason, a big line. But every year it seemed like when they would do their big thing at New Hampshire, which was the kind of their crown jewel almost kind of deal, you would see that field littered with Cup guys
Hmm.
quite often. But yeah, Ryan's done right. And I know people seem to either like that guy or dislike that guy, but he's done awful well for himself.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. Being for NASCAR driver, my favorite driver is Brad Keselowski.
Mhm.
I've and this goes back to the rivalry with Kyle Busch. I know I could never stand Kyle Busch. So when they had that going, I was a Rusty Wallace fan. Rusty Wallace retired. It took a couple years to really figure out who I wanted to follow. So when that whole rivalry with Kyle happened, I was like, all right, this guy's going to be my guy. I followed him for years, and then when I was always obviously being a Rusty Wallace fan, I was big on the number two, Penske number two. When he made the decision to leave, that was really hard on what I wanted to do because I've been following the two for all my life.
Right.
But I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with him to RFK. And then now with the announcement of Ryan Preece joining RFK, I'm really excited for that. I really hope Ryan does have some success with that team. Um, so I'm excited to, obviously him being, Stafford Speedway guy, I want him to do well. I want him to do well with Stuart Haas. I don't think he got what he wanted out of it. But I'm excited for him to be at RFK, and I'm hoping he has a good season.
Well, very cool. You know, you talk about the lineage of those modified drivers, and you talked about being there in 1993, which kind of made me cringe because I remember 93. I feel like the old man now wanting to just yell at you to get off my lawn. But uh, when you came in, I've always wondered this: are the SK? I know the SKs are followed a lot, but the tour. You know, Tell me the environment at the racetrack when the tour comes in or the SKs. I mean, does it change a whole lot? Is it both of them a big deal up there?
I don't
Because
really.
they're the same drivers.
So I don't. So the tour modifieds, I don't think come to Stafford anymore since Stafford wouldn't renew their deal with NASCAR. So I haven't seen them lately there. I think they've done like a tour type or something, but I don't think it was the official tours. So I don't think there might be a difference, just because the tour modifieds, especially, how many times do you see the tour modifieds around here? It's not very often, Thompson and all that stuff, but at Stafford specifically, I haven't seen them for a couple years, I think. But I know they bring a good following when you go to like Thompson and other tracks like that. So I think so, but when it comes the difference between the SK and the tour, it's hard to say because they haven't been there for a little while, or at least that I remember.
Oh, fair enough. You talked a little bit also about the going to Stafford and now being up in Maine and all that. What do you do when you're not sim racing? What do you do for a living?
I work. I, wor-
Well,
I, wor- I work and I take care of 4 kids, and that's pretty much what I do. I mean, four kids that are growing up, and honestly, it's pretty much what I do. I'm either
where
here working on league stuff, or working with the kids, or going out with the kids to do stuff, and just doing
how
what we
old
got
are
to
you?
do.
How old are your kids?
Oh,
I got three, and I think one just turned 8. My middle one just turned 18. So, kind of curious, where are you at in that line? You're probably a
so
little bit behind me.
not by far. My oldest actually turns 16 in 3 days.
Oh wow.
And my youngest is 9, and they're in between there. Yeah.
Okay, now we got to focus on the 16. So, what is the plan for driving here? I'm kind of curious to hear your perspective on that. That's the gray hair. That's it started in that era.
Yeah. So she's actually already started driver's ed.
Okay.
And the best part about that is when I got a message screenshot from my wife that apparently in driver's ed they had a whole video on how blinker fluid and where you're supposed to put it in. And the best part is when my daughter texts my wife going, "Is this an actual thing?" And it's, I work at an auto parts store. So the funniest thing for me is, why are you not asking me? No, she asked my wife. But of course, my wife has to screenshot the conversation and send it to me. So it was funny. But obviously, who knows with this one? I don't know if I feel safe with her driving my car. Uh, my wife and I really haven't gotten that far into it because we're making sure she actually, finishes the driver's ed, gets her permit, and then we'll kind of deal with that. But yeah, I don't know. With this one, I'm a little nervous just because. I mean, it's her. If you knew her, and her tendencies with stuff, it might be a good luck moment. But
Well, it's
well,
also your first time going through this transition,
yeah,
so I can tell you yeah, um, it ages you.
yeah. I'm not going to say I'm looking forward to it, but I kind of have to look forward to it because I know it's inevitable. It's going to happen. So
Yeah, yeah,
we'll,
yeah.
we'll
Death,
take
death
the
and
ride as we
taxes.
can.
Yep. Um, when do you remember back when you started driving? Can you think back to like when
Oh,
you first started? I mean, can you
I
think of
can
times
remember.
where you? But let me rephrase it. Can you think of times when you might have worried your parents? Do you see any of the? Okay, that's hereditary because she's doing what I know I did.
So, funniest story about this. My dad was all set, to my understanding of this. Obviously, my mother will sometimes give a different story. However, how I recall it is my dad wanted me to get my license at 16. That's how he did it, and everything. My mom was concerned I was going to have a lead foot, so did everything in her power for me to take as long to get my license as I could. I did not get my driver's license until I was 20, because I did not realize at the age of 18 I can send in for my birth certificate that my mom always said she'd get me and then never got me. And once I learned that I can send in for it myself because I was a legal adult, I did that, and I kind of procrastinated on it. However, I was driving. By the time I got my license, I may or may not have been driving without a license for like 3 years, somewhere around there. I mean, even when I, the permit stuff, like when you're supposed to do so many hours with someone. Yeah, no, I might have done that all myself. Who knows?
Guilty of that.
But
Um,
yeah, no, it's funny as all because I make this joke now because my mom, was always worried about me having a lead foot. Well, all my other brothers and sisters, because I'm the oldest of seven, so of course, I'm the test child. Um, if I'm correct, I am the only one that hasn't lost my license at all. So I always bring that up with my mom. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the one with the lead foot, huh?
well, what's funny is she's worried about you having a left foot, and yet she took you to a racetrack when you're 6, 7 years old. What did she expect?
I mean, yeah, I don't know what she was thinking, but I mean, yeah, I got a lead foot, but I have a lead foot at the right places, I guess.
I I think that's a great way to put it. Um, that's awesome. Uh, how long have you been married, if you don't mind me
Uh,
asking?
she doesn't want to admit this, but 16 years.
Nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, she doesn't like showing her age. Her birthday is actually tomorrow, and she's hitting a number that she doesn't want to talk about. So let's just say she's turning 29.
That's fair. That's what the record will reflect here. So we
Yep.
won't let Ryan edit anything here. 29 is it. So, well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Um, that's you don't see that every day anymore. But it seems like now, for whatever reason, maybe it's just iRacers. Every time I talk to somebody, they've all been married for a while, and I've got to ask you this.
Mhm.
I've had this conversation with some other folks. If iRacing was around when you were a teenager, are you still married 16 years, or would have taken a little bit longer for y'all to get married?
So funny story. I had never met my wife until I was 20. I believe it was 20. Um, I actually was. I played in a metal group when I was my high school years, and then just after
Really?
high school, I was a singer for a metal group. And we were in Maine. Made the decision to relocate to the Boston area. Just felt it was going to be better to try to make it. Um, and one of our first show in Massachusetts, our keyboardist at the time actually knew her and invited her to the show. And that's the first time I met her. I was seeing someone else at that time, which shortly after that ended. Um, just wasn't something that I was expecting, but it ended. And a couple months later, I'm getting messages from her, and she comes over to where all of our band guys we all live together, and she'd come hang out, and then she'd go to shows, and then eventually started seeing each other, and so I wouldn't say that iRacing really
Mm,
changed that. We were kind of, we were already married actually when I started iRacing. She knew I was big into racing, and I went, hey, instead of spending what is it, 60, $70 on each racing game that comes out, how about this one thing that I pay for as cars come out, and like once a year. And it's the same thing she does, where she has her hobbies, she goes and does stuff. This is the hobby I have, so this is when I have the downtime, it's what I jump on and do, and I enjoy it. And obviously, I personally think a marriage is both ways. You got to let us have our hobbies. We don't need to be smothering each other all the time. But she goes does her thing. I sit here and I do my thing, and then when time allows, that we'll do stuff together or do stuff with the kids. And so I wouldn't say iRacing would have done anything if it was out sooner, except for probably cost me more money in the end.
um, so you played in a band. So were you guys doing covers? Were you original music?
Oh, we were original. I have a thing about covers and cover bands. I'm not a fan. I don't like when I'll get the torch for this, but this is my opinion on it. I don't like when I see people playing someone else's music and making money off of it.
Yeah.
I've never believed in that. I prefer you just to have your own original stuff. So yeah, it was original. It was original stuff is what we did. We might have thrown a cover. I think we threw one cover at one show once because that band that I wound up joining at that time, they always did one cover at this one specific show. So I'll do one. I just didn't want to be doing multiple or a whole thing. I liked having the
No.
original stuff.
Well, one, I've always thought bands that would come out, one, maybe two, just to kind of as a tribute to maybe an influence, say, hey,
Mhm.
these guys were heroes of mine. check this out. We love playing this song, something we jam to. So you say metal. That is a big, wide scope.
Oh, yeah.
So what, who was your influences when you, listen to, what did you listen to?
Believe it or not, I was a very big electronic rock guy. My favorite band is electronic rock. I don't know if I really want to say the name here because it might throw some people off, but a lot of the other bands that were like that, I don't even know if you've heard of any of these, like Dead Z, the Annex, Dead Star Assembly, just
I've
to
heard
name
of
a
them.
few. But
So pretty
then,
close to the Nine Inch Nails,
yeah,
a little bit down that route.
close to that was a lot of my personal
Okay.
liking. But then new metal came out. Korn, Limp Bizkit, Slipknot, 40 Below Summer, System of a Down, you name them all. That's where a lot of the metal influence came from. One I'm a big fan of. They weren't really around then, but that's kind of what we were going for in a way when we were doing it, is a band called Motionless in White. Um, Not exactly, but we were that metal group that was the gothic style with the fishnets and the trip pants and all that stuff from Hot Topic back in the day. Not so much anymore, but with the league, there are some band photos that I've shared. One of them was on the back of Brandon Beanie's car
You
because he
got to
called.
share you got to share those with Ryan.
Yeah,
Between now, in the next 24 hours, you've got to share those with Ryan.
yeah, I didn't even think of that at the time, but yeah. So it's basically a lot of screaming, singing. It wasn't just screaming all the time, but we get the joke. Was it Feeney gave me the nickname because obviously a nickname I already have from other people is Granny Hips Buckley because at the age of 30 I had a hip repair surgery because both my hips are screwed up. So um, yeah, that's a whole other story. But so he now calls me Death Metal Granny Hips. And he
See,
still wants me to. They just brought this back up again from like 3 years ago, but before every race, I do pre-race. Just going over the rules. We do it every week. That I have to do it in my death metal voice, and I keep trying to explain to Brandon and all the other guys. It took me a long time to learn how to do that, and I also haven't done that in probably 18 years. So it's not like I can really just do it now. But they still determine they want me to do the death metal voice for the pre-race rules, but they're never going to get it because I can't even do that anymore.
when you say metal and all that, my early, that's why I said it's such a wide thing. Now I feel so old because all the bands you just listed are basically from the 90s, which makes sense,
Yep.
from where you're at. I grew up, Anthrax, Metallica, Megadeth, Motorhead, those were my bands
Hmm.
growing up. So, um, yeah, just kind of funny. Like I said, metal. When you said that, my ears perked up. And I'm like, yeah, wait, that could be a big definition there.
Oh, yeah.
Big, big, loud, noisy family, I suppose.
Yep.
Well, very, very cool. Well, Josh, I tell you, enjoyed here getting to know you, getting to know your league. I cannot wait to watch your races on Thursday nights, right here on the VGN network. So, anything else you want us to know about your league before we kind of wind everything down here?
I mean, honestly, we're just a group of guys that we're really chill. We just come out to have a good time racing. You know, everything going on in the world. Work life, all stress of that, paying your bills. It's a couple hours a week that we just get to disconnect from that and enjoy racing. Um, and it's a really cool group of guys on both series, Monday nights and Thursday nights. It's a lot of fun because it's just a lot of respect between guys that we all have the same goal. It's like, yeah, the goal is to win a race, but we're having fun. And one of the big things that I see in some other leagues that I've run in, or I don't see compared to us, is man, can we talk, and let's just say some of it is not PG when we're in our Discord channels. Just we're giving each other crap. Another guy's faster. I can't tell you how many times someone says "get good" or something like some of the stuff that is said. It's funny, and we don't mean any ill will. It's just let's just say we're not for kids. But we just enjoy ourselves and have a good time. So if anybody is looking for that, where it's really laid back, like obviously we're on the wheel and racing hard, but at the end of the day, we're not snippy with each other. Obviously, if you get wrecked and something happens, I'll be mad for 5 minutes. By the time that race is over, I'm already past it. And that's pretty much what our guys are, and that's what the league is, and that's why we're definitely different. But anybody that might be interested in that stuff, we're always looking for guys that just want to come out and have fun. So if you're out there, find us.
So Red Light Racing there and iRacing. So you look them up and put an invite in there, and hopefully we'll get to see you on track with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right, Josh. Well, the last thing I'm going to do, I always do like what I like to call a green-white checkered right here at the end. Just 3 quick little things here to kind of get your thoughts as we kind of get through everything here. The first thing, NCAA or pro football? Which one's your favorite? Pro.
Yep.
And you're a big Giants fan, right?
New York Giants. Yep. Even though they're terrible right now.
NASCAR or short track?
Short track.
All right, the last one. This one might make you think here a little bit. Does Eli make the Hall of Fame? And does he deserve it?
Hands down, I say yes.
Does he deserve it?
I think so. I go back from seeing when Eli Manning was terrible. I remember when he first, got the thing from, taking over for Kurt Warner. He was pretty bad for a while, but to also do what he did, especially with the playoff runs, I don't see how he doesn't make the Hall of Fame. So I think hands down, yes, he makes it.
Well, fair enough. Well, Josh, thank you very much for joining us this week. From all of us here at VGN, we want to thank you for watching our conversation here with Josh Buckley. We will see you next week right here on VGN.
Coming up on VGN, RLR's Skidder Creek SK Modified Series will be live from New Smyrna Speedway on Thursday, January 9th at 7:55 p.m. Eastern. The BRL Modifieds and late models from Lanier National Speedway will air on Saturday, January 11th at 7:40 p.m. Eastern. On Tuesday, January 14th, VGN Weekly will air at 9 a.m. Eastern with special guest Lloyd Moore from the OBRL. And coming soon to VGN, the OBRL's NASCAR Cup Series will begin its 36-race schedule on February 16th. The inaugural Yesteryear Racing IROC Series will fire up on February 18th, and the VGN debut of Yesteryear Racing's 1966 Tour Modified Series will kick off on February 25th. You can see our full schedule at virtualgrip.net/calendar.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of VGN Weekly. Join us next time for race recaps, interviews, and much, much more. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. This has been a production of the Virtual Grip Network and the Skidder Creek Motorsports Group.